Hidden marriage for 3 years. My husband was cold and distant, never showing any care. Until a video leaked of him passionately kissing his white moonlight inside a car. That's when I realized he had a side he couldn't control his feelings about. Just not with me. Later, his white moonlight came to provoke me in person. During the struggle, I fell down the stairs, causing a premature birth and heavy bleeding. That night, the whole circle buzzed with news that the Buddha's son had come down from his pedestal, standing alone in the endless snow, bowing step by step to pray for my safety. But I handed him a divorce decree instead. Blood trickled from his temple as his voice shook, "Don't divorce me. The child needs a father." Slowly, I pulled my hand out of his palm, "No need. I can raise the child alone." 10 minutes before the video of Gerald and Xavier kissing in the car was exposed, I was holding a press conference, announcing my temporary retirement from the industry. I had just won Best Actress last month, so suddenly stepping down shocked everyone at the scene. Countless microphones were thrust in front of me. "Tamia, can you share why you're quitting? There are rumors you were spotted at the maternity ward. Is it true you're pregnant? Who's the father?" I lifted my chin, smiled at the cameras, and rested my hand on my slightly rounded belly, ready to answer each question. Suddenly, someone whispered, "Look at the trending searches. Xavier's relationship is exposed." My eyelids twitched slightly. The noise around me grew chaotic, the interview cut off. My agent pulled me backstage and handed me a phone. On the trending list was a short video clip. On a rainy night, the window of a Maybach was half open. Xavier wore a pale blue cheongsam, softly leaning into a man's arms, offering him a kiss. A wrist wrapped in smooth prayer beads gently hugged her slender waist. The atmosphere was intimate and dreamy. #Cheongsam Ferry and Buddhasun Kiss in Car #. #Xavier Gerald So Sweet #. He is usually detached but breaks his rules for her #. These trending tags crushed the news about my retirement and shot up to the top 3 entertainment topics. My agent Stephanie's face darkened as she cursed. "That Xavier, stealing your endorsements and resources wasn't enough, now she has to steal your spotlight too." She lit a cigarette, angry and speaking without filter. "Tamia, isn't your husband also a top heir in Beijing society? Make him warn Xavier. I don't believe she'd be this arrogant if he said something." I kept my head down, silent. Until the phone screen went dark, reflecting a pale face back at me. I barely forced out a word. "My husband is Gerald." With a snap, Stephanie dropped her cigarette onto the floor. 2. Very few people in the industry know I'm Gerald's wife. Gerald's family insists I shamelessly seduced him, so they've kept our marriage a secret from the public. But that's not true. 3 years ago, I was invited to an event. After it ended, an investor came to toast me. Unaware, I drank a glass of champagne laced with a date rape drug. When I was taken to a hotel, I bit down hard on my palm, summoning all my strength to break free from the investor's grasp. I staggered and pushed open a nearby door left ajar. "Help, please help me." I curled up in a corner, soft whimpers escaping my lips. A man came out of the bathroom, visibly drunk, eyeing me up and down. Then, suddenly, he pulled me into his arms. "Back so soon?" His hot breath brushed my ear. Before I could say anything, he kissed me. The next morning, with daylight streaming in, I clearly saw his face, Gerald. Gerald, heir to the Gerald Group, known in Beijing circles as the Buddha's son, cold and disciplined by nature, famously self-controlled and respectful. But last night, he was wild. I gathered my scattered clothes and fled like my life depended on it. I thought it was a one-night thing, never to cross paths again. But that afternoon, Gerald showed up at my door, saying, "Miss Tamia, sorry, I drank too much last night." He asked for my bank account and transferred 5 million yuan. "I will take responsibility for you. This is the bride price." On the day we registered our marriage, I asked him why he decided to marry me. He said, "My family has strict rules. If you take a girl's virginity, you must take responsibility. I smiled a little, thinking Gerald might be a good man. Marrying him seemed like a decent choice. But until this moment, I finally understood. Gerald married me out of guilt. I look so much like Xavier that he mistook me for her while drunk. That's why that night happened. 3. Pulling myself away from the memory, I blinked back the stinging tears. I picked up the cigarette Stephanie dropped on the floor, along with the pregnancy test report from my pocket, and tossed them both into the trash bin. Stephanie hurriedly stopped me. "What are you doing? Aren't you going to tell Gerald you're pregnant?" I said nothing. My eyes drifted to my phone screen, which suddenly lit up. Xavier was being interviewed by the media, still wearing a cheapao, and on her delicate wrist hung a strand of sandalwood prayer beads. I recognized them, they belonged to Gerald. I'd heard they were a keepsake left by his mother, meant to be given to the one he spends his life with. I once half-jokingly asked him for them, but he flat-out refused. Now, they were on Xavier's wrist. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Xavier smiled sweetly at the camera, casually playing with the prayer beads. A reporter asked pointedly, "Xavier, did Gerald give you those?" "Yeah, he did." Xavier bit her lip, putting on a shy, girlish act. "But Gerald and I are just friends now. Friends who've kissed." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I was young and hot-headed before. After we argued, I left the country to study performance abroad without saying a word. "Media friends, please help me talk to Gerald. Tell him not to be mad at me anymore, we've already kissed." Her voice dropped lower and lower, her eyes red, like a wronged little rabbit. So pitiful. Fans and media spontaneously started campaigning for her. "Gerald, please forgive Xavier, you two are really meant for each other." Stephanie fumed beside me, cursing loudly in my ear. Damn shameless. Doesn't she know Gerald's already married? Of course, Xavier knew. The first movie she took after returning to the country was one I was also in. One day after filming, she called out to me, "Mrs. Gerald, how's married life treating you?" I didn't get what she meant and was about to ask when she smiled knowingly and walked off. That same night, Gerald, always cold and distant, never caring for me, showed up at the film set unexpectedly. The room's thin walls barely muffled his voice. He brushed my hair aside, his voice hoarse and coaxing, "Wifey, be good, open your mouth." After 3 years of a secret marriage, it was the first time he called me wifey. I was so overwhelmed with joy, thinking he was finally accepting me. But I didn't notice Xavier lived just next door. He came to find me just to spite her. Gerald never liked me. By the time I realized this, I was already 3 months pregnant. I planned to wait until the press conference ended to tell him he was going to be a father. But that video hit the trending list first, exposing the whole truth behind our marriage. I used to think Gerald was just cold and unemotional with me. Today I realized he also had moments when emotions overwhelmed him, just never for me. Suddenly, those 3 years felt like a joke. Tears fought their way out, smudging my carefully done makeup. Through blurred vision, I saw a pair of shiny leather shoes. Gerald stood over me, hands in his pockets, looking down without a hint of feeling in his voice. "Tamia, you already know. That he married me out of guilt. That's why he treated me coldly." I wiped my tears, stood up, raised my hand, and slapped him hard. "Gerald, you're such a jerk." 4. I scheduled a miscarriage procedure for a week later. Except for Stephanie, I told no one, not even Gerald. But on the day of the operation, he cornered me in the hospital corridor. Gerald stared at me for a few seconds, then slowly shifted his gaze to my belly. He asked coldly, "Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" I found it ridiculous. "Why would I tell you? I'm the father." His tone was still indifferent. No emotion, just a statement of fact. Suddenly, I lost my temper and snapped, "How can someone who cheats during marriage be a father?" That seemed to anger Gerald. He warned sternly, "Tamia, don't be difficult." Difficult? The private hospital had tight security with no bystanders, but our argument caught the nurse's attention. I pulled my mask higher, not wanting to attract notice. Then I heard my name called. It was my turn. I shoved past Gerald and walked into the exam room. 2 steps in, my body suddenly felt light. I was lifted off the ground. Had enough of this? Gerald looked down at me. You can be mad at me all you want, but the baby's innocent. He was holding me tightly. I couldn't break free. Frustrated, I punched him. Gerald, what's wrong with you? If you want a child, divorce me and have one with Xavier. Why are you interfering with my choice? Ah. Gerald suddenly let go and tossed me into the back seat of the Maybach. Remembering that video where he kissed Xavier right here, my stomach churned. Ignoring my sour expression, he grabbed my chin and kissed me. The air smelled faintly of blood. Gerald bit my lip and, for the first time, lost control because of me. He sneered, divorce? Don't even think about it, Tamia. At that moment, someone knocked on the car window. Xavier stood there, looking lost and pale. She choked back tears and whispered, Gerald, what are you saying? If you don't divorce her, then what am I? 5. It was early autumn, and an unexpected cold rain had just started to fall. Xavier stubbornly waited for an answer, her long hair damp and draped over her shoulders, sneezing at just the right moment. Gerald frowned, about to get out of the car. I knew he was feeling conflicted, so I deliberately called after him, you don't have to divorce if you don't want to. But you have to agree to 3 conditions. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xavier clench her fists. I smiled. First, make our secret marriage public. Second, have her apologize to me publicly and admit she interfered in our marriage. Third, after all this, she must disappear from my life forever. There was a long silence. Gerald hesitated without replying, while Xavier nervously stared at him. Their past hadn't ended well. Xavier was spoiled and quick to argue, threaten breakups, and disappear whenever things didn't go her way. Gerald had coddled her many times. The last time, she ran off abroad in a fit of anger. Gerald stopped indulging her. He turned and married me instead. 3 years later, Xavier knew Gerald hadn't forgotten her feelings, but she wasn't sure where I stood in his heart. She was scared. Scared he might accept my terms. Scared he might finally give her up. I urged Gerald, have you made up your mind? Xavier snapped back like a cornered rabbit baring her teeth, glaring at me with hatred. Why should I apologize? Haven't you heard the saying? The one not loved is the third party. So what if you married Gerald? For these 3 years, he hasn't forgotten me for a single day. To prove her point, she waved the bracelet in front of me, the same sandalwood prayer beads. You've never even worn the family heirloom once. You're a terrible Gerald's wife. Her mockery was sharp. Before, I might have been furious enough to faint. But now, I just looked at her calmly, my fingers tightening in my pocket. Waiting for her to say more. Noticing my little move, Xavier screamed, pointing at me, Gerald, she's recording, she's recording. Gerald raised his eyes to meet mine. We stared at each other silently. After a long hesitation, he finally extended his hand, give me your phone. 6. I didn't move. Xavier circled around, opened the car door, and violently searched my pockets. I wanted to slap her, but found I couldn't move. Gerald grabbed my wrist. He whispered, sorry, Tamia. I can't ruin Xavier. Her career is just taking off. Xavier. Such an intimate way to say her name. He knew better than anyone what kind of public backlash she'd face if the recording leaked. So he decided to sacrifice me to protect her. After deleting the recording, Xavier threw the phone back at me. It hit my belly hard. I gasped in pain. Gerald seemed flustered, a flash of concern in his eyes as he asked, are you okay? Does it hurt? Then he turned to scold Xavier, watch where you're going. She seemed stunned, probably the first time Gerald had snapped at her, and after a few seconds, tears started to roll down her cheeks. Feeling utterly wronged. "Gerald, I didn't mean it." Gerald ignored her, rubbed my stomach, and asked again. "Wife, does it hurt here?" A belated term of endearment, belated concern. So hypocritical. I pushed his hand away, tugged at the corner of my mouth, and forced out a pale smile. "Don't touch me. You make me sick." Sick. That word hit Gerald like a slap. His eyes flashed with pain for a moment, then grew cold. He stopped paying attention to me, swiftly got out of the car, pulled Xavier into his arms, and softly comforted her. "Xavier, it's my fault. I shouldn't have yelled at you. Please stop crying, okay?" Xavier cried harder but still gave me a mocking smile. As if to say, "See? He chose me after all." She leaned softly against Gerald, breathing sweetly in his ear. "Gerald, I know you still have feelings for me. I was wrong back then. I shouldn't have been so bad-tempered, disappearing after every fight. Please don't be mad, forgive me. That night when you slept with her, I was next door listening. My heart broke. Please don't treat me like that again, okay?" Gerald glanced at me deliberately and held her hand. "Okay, I promise." He carried her gently to the passenger seat. I was forced out of the car, standing by the roadside like a joke. As he drove off, Gerald coldly warned. "All private hospitals in Jing City are controlled by the Gerald family. You can try making appointments one by one and see who dares to perform your procedure." I froze. No wonder he found me here today. "Gerald, you really are shameless." 7. The rain was coming down harder and harder. I waited by the roadside for half an hour until Stephanie's car finally arrived. Seeing me soaked and pale, she handed me a dry towel and some warm ginger tea. Stephanie looked at me through the rearview mirror, worried. "The last time you went for a prenatal checkup at a public hospital, the paparazzi caught you, and netizens slammed you for being pregnant out of wedlock and not behaving properly. Now you're switching to a private hospital, right under Gerald's nose. What's your plan for dealing with this?" I dried my hair and collapsed wearily into the seat. I didn't say a word. A major Weibo notification popped up. Xavier updated her status, rekindling love with my first sweetheart. Attached was a photo of two hands intertwined. The slender hand in the photo was unmistakably Gerald's. Netizens were full of blessings. Sis and brother-in-law finally patched things up. Family, anyone understand? The celebrity Buddhist scholar has come to life, and the female lead is still a big star. Get married already. I'll bring the Civil Affairs Bureau here. My haters commented under Xavier's post. Hahaha, Sister Bai is amazing, success in career and love. Meanwhile, Tamia, after the flood, doesn't even know who the father of her kid is. Pathetic. Last month was the Qinglong Film Festival. Xavier and I were both nominated for Best Actress. The judges thought my acting was stronger and gave me the award. Her fans didn't accept it and claimed there was foul play. They kept calling me the Flood Actress. My public image took a nosedive, and Xavier seized many endorsement deals I lost. Before, I never cared. But now, I suddenly didn't want to hold back. She kept pushing me too far, and if I didn't fight back, it would be unfair. I dug out my marriage certificate from my phone album and posted on Weibo. Secretly married for 3 years, now preparing for divorce. Short and straightforward. Packed with meaning. It instantly went viral. The comments began to shift. Wait, what? Tamia's husband is Gerald? Just now we were congratulating Xavier, didn't expect she's the third party. What reunion? This is clearly cheating during marriage, so disgusting. Don't just blame the woman, the man's no good either, entangled with his first love during his wife's pregnancy, scandal everywhere. +1, acting so pure on the surface but doing such dirty things behind the scenes. I stared at the comments, smiling with satisfaction. But a few seconds later, all the posts were removed, replaced by a statement from the Gerald Group official account. Completely fabricated. No names mentioned. No specifics on who fabricated it. The response was vague, but a flood of paid trolls poured into my comments section. LOL, flood actress got slapped. This marriage certificate is obviously photoshopped. Glad I wasn't fooled. The daughter of a poor family dares to fake with Jing City's top wealthy family. Tamia, have some shame. Have you been dumped by your sugar daddy and developed delusions? Stop fantasizing about others being your husband. Bitterness filled me. An unquenchable rage burned inside my chest, as if it could consume me completely. Just as my reason was about to collapse, I got a call. Gerald's voice came through like poison wrapped in honey. Wife, this is punishment. Still dare to mention divorce again, huh? I didn't understand what he meant. He clearly didn't love me. So why did he keep tormenting me and refusing to let go? 8. I answered calmly, I do. Then I hung up on Gerald. The consequences were harsh, my reputation was shredded, and my career collapsed completely. That same night, when Gerald's family heard about the marital problems, they ordered me to return to the old family estate. The grand reception hall was filled with Gerald's elders. My dad stood awkwardly in a corner, his hair gray, his skin tanned dark from work on construction sites, looking out of place. When he saw me, he gave me a sincere, reassuring smile and mouthed, "Don't be afraid, Dad's got your back." The patriarch scolded me, "Have you forgotten how you got into the Gerald family? Now you dare to talk divorce? You've really grown wings." He always believed I schemed my way into Gerald's bed to marry into the wealthy family. I glanced at Gerald. He lounged lazily on the sofa, showing no intention of defending me. My dad couldn't stand me being insulted and stepped protectively in front of me. "My daughter is not that kind of person. Your son came to propose, promised to take responsibility, that's why I agreed to this marriage. It's only been 3 years, and the online videos are all over the place. Your son cheats, but my daughter wanting a divorce makes her the criminal?" The patriarch was stunned. He was old and didn't follow entertainment news, so he probably didn't know about Gerald and Xavia's steamy car kiss. I played the video for everyone to see. Everyone in the room watched it. Other relatives from Gerald's side tried to smooth things over. "Tamia, this isn't a big deal. Rich kids fool around all the time. Besides, you're already pregnant, no one can shake your position. Just be sensible, turn a blind eye, and life will go on." Their words tried to gloss over the problem. They were even discussing baby names. I walked over to Gerald. His eyes rested on my belly. Calmly, I asked in a soft voice, "Wouldn't it be better to divorce me and marry the one you truly love?" Gerald sneered, "Tamia, cut it out. Stop playing these push and pull games with me." I stared at him, confused and lost. Suddenly, he lost his temper, grabbed me, held me tightly in his arms, and leaned close to my ear, almost growling. "What are you pretending for? You're just jealous of Xavier, copying her old tricks, acting up to get me to coax you, right? Fine, I'll coax you." He pinched my cheek in a fake affectionate gesture, but his tone was dismissive. "Wife, behave. Don't mention divorce again. Focus on having the baby. Whatever you want, I'll give you. Happy now?" I tugged at the corner of my mouth and smiled faintly. He still thought I was just throwing a tantrum. That I was trying to get his attention with tricks. How ridiculous. Looking at the face that once made my heart race so many times, for the first time I felt it was just ordinary. He wasn't worth it, it was my feelings that had gilded him. Realizing this, I coldly brushed his hand away and stood up. The patriarch, now understanding the full story, grabbed his cane and struck Gerald's back hard. "Disgraceful. Deal with the woman outside immediately." The Gerald family valued their reputation and traditions deeply. Scandals affected the stock market, so the patriarch was furious. The living room erupted into chaos. Several people stepped in to break up the conflict. My dad pulled me back to a safe spot. "Daughter, I'm taking you home. This place is bad luck." I nodded and left with him. Gerald knelt on the ground, wiping blood from his mouth, glaring in my direction. "Tamia, don't leave." I ignored him. I didn't look back. Before, when he was scolded by the patriarch, I would have cried in pain. But today, I felt nothing, not even a glance. Gerald froze for a few seconds. Then his face drained of color. He finally realized that when I said divorce, I meant it. I really didn't want him anymore. 9. Before leaving the old family estate, the patriarch called me back. He handed me an agreement. That brat was clearly at fault here. "I won't stop you if you want a divorce, but the Gerald family has few heirs. I hope you will keep this child." I flipped through the contract. In black and white, it stated that regardless of custody, the Gerald family would pay $100 million annually in child support. He knew I was short on money. Because of public opinion, people in the industry avoided me. Several endorsements were cancelled one after another, and I was sued for damages by brands. I was drowning in debt. At home, my dad pulled out a tin box from under the bed, his entire savings, in both coins and bills. He said, "Don't be afraid, daughter. Dad will support you." Seeing his hands, full of wrinkles and calluses, I teared up. My mother died in childbirth, so this old man raised me, playing both mom and dad. When I was 8, classmates mocked me for having a mom but no mom to raise me. My dad stormed into the classroom, grabbing their ears, teaching them a lesson. "You little brats, who do you think you're talking about? My daughter doesn't have a mother, but she has me. If anyone says another bad word, I'll deal with them." When I was 13 and got my first period, staining my sheets, my dad went to the store to buy sanitary pads, asked a neighbor lady to teach me how to use them. I was shy and scared. He told me, "This is normal. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Congratulations, daughter, you're growing up." At 17, I applied to drama school with expensive tuition. My dad worked on construction sites all day, delivered food at night, sleeping only 4 hours a day. When I found out, he apologized, "Daughter, I'm not good enough, but no matter how poor we are, I'll make sure you finish college." Maybe fate did favor me sometimes. After graduation, I met Stephanie. She brought me into the industry. We fought for resources for 5 years until I finally won Best Actress. That was the first time my dad went to the movies. He waved a support stick like a kid, sitting in the audience happily smiling. "Hee hee, see? That's my daughter on stage, Best Actress." There are too many moments like that. Like now. My career is ruined, my marriage is failing, and I'm almost at the breaking point. My dad held my hand seriously. "Whatever you decide, Dad will support you. If you want to keep the baby, Dad will work hard and be a good grandpa. If you want to terminate the pregnancy and divorce, Dad will help you find a lawyer and sue." My dad has always been so good to me. I cried uncontrollably. He hurriedly wiped my tears and comforted me like when I was a child. "Don't cry. Dad will always be your strongest support." But he's old now, worn down from years of hard work, and has heart problems. I don't want him to worry about me anymore. Also, when I booked the surgery, I had a series of tests. The doctor said my health is fragile. If I terminate this pregnancy, I might never be able to conceive again. After much thought, I decided to sign the agreement, to keep the child. At the same time, I steeled myself to prepare for the divorce. But I searched all over the city for lawyers, no one dared take my case. Because Gerald had already warned them. Just when I was about to give up, a man came to see me. He wore a trench coat, tall and slender, with cold, sharp features. I felt like I recognized him. "Excuse me, who are you?" He handed me a business card and introduced himself. "Miss Tamia, hello. I'm Anderson." Anderson. The name sounded familiar. Oh, I remembered. After the Qinglong Film Festival, at a fan meeting, Anderson held my early photo book, saying his family elders liked me and asked him to get my autograph. I signed for him. I didn't expect him to show up again, so I joked, "Are you here for another autograph today?" Anderson shook his head, "No." He lowered his eyes to me, his dark eyes like a deep pool, emotions unclear. Anderson said, "I'm here to help you get divorced." 10. The continuous rain finally stopped after several days. A warm golden ray of sunlight broke through the thick clouds, shining on Anderson. Suddenly, a line of poetry came to mind. After countless mountains and rivers, when you think there's no way out, suddenly you find a bright village beyond the dark willows and blooming flowers. And indeed, that's how things felt. I looked up Anderson's background. He graduated from a top school, had never lost a divorce case, and most importantly, he wasn't involved in the Beijing circle. He wasn't influenced by Gerald. He was professional. "Miss Tamiya, please prepare evidence proving the breakdown of your marriage, and any evidence showing the other party's fault." I sent Anderson the video of that passionate kiss and screenshots of Xavier's Weibo posts. The court would take some time to process the case. Recently, my morning sickness had worsened, and the smell of city car exhaust made me queasy. To help me rest and care for the baby, my dad took me back to our hometown. Jiangnan's late autumn was like a painting. Gray bricks and black tiles, small bridges over flowing water. Walking on stone paths, at the end of the alley stood an old Western-style house. We hadn't been back in a long time. Inside, dust had settled everywhere. Worried I might choke, my dad hurriedly pushed me outside. Bored, I stood in the yard and admired the view. The sunset here was more romantic than in the city, the golden light scattered like crushed sunlight. Fragrant sweet osmanthus filled the air. Pomegranate trees were heavy with fruit, bowing the branches. Suddenly, the door of the neighboring house creaked open. Anderson walked out wearing casual clothes, his bangs falling over his long eyelashes. The usual coldness in his eyes was softened somehow. He saw me and didn't seem surprised. He greeted me casually. "We meet again, Miss Tamiya." I froze for a moment and awkwardly asked, "What a coincidence, you live here too?" Anderson shook the keys in his hand, smiling. "Not really. I'm on leave, just came here for a vacation." "On leave?" The last time I went to his firm to sign the power of attorney, I overheard his assistant in the break room sigh. "Lawyer Anderson has over a dozen cases on his plate, and still has time to take yours. He works 24 hours straight, no breaks. You don't get it, that's the power of a fan." I opened my mouth, wanting to ask, but before I could, my phone vibrated violently between us. Anderson's phone rang. He patiently answered work inquiries and, not wanting me to be bored waiting, peeled an orange and handed it to me. I shyly accepted and popped a slice in my mouth. The sweet and sour juice spread in my mouth. After he hung up, Anderson glanced at my stuffed cheeks and chuckled softly. "So cute, like a little hamster." My face flushed instantly. Realizing the mood was a bit awkward, he cleared his throat and casually changed the subject. "Your case, the petition has been filed. The hearing should be in about 3 months. I whispered. "Has your soon-to-be ex contacted you lately?" "No. I had already blocked Gerald." Anderson nodded and reminded me. "He seems anxious since you left Beijing, asking around everywhere about your whereabouts." I sneered silently. Why would Gerald care? He was probably rekindling things with Xavier, all lovey-dovey as usual. The sky darkened, and the scent of home cooking drifted into the air. My dad stuck his head out the window, calling me back for dinner. "Daughter, the chicken soup's getting cold." Anderson politely turned and headed inside. But before he took 2 steps, his phone rang again. Without even saying goodbye, he gave me an apologetic look. As the door closed behind him, I noticed the cold boxed meal left on the table. Was that his dinner? I really wanted to ask why, if he was so busy, he'd come all the way to Jiangnan for a vacation. But after thinking twice, I didn't. Not wanting to disturb his call, I typed a message on my phone and held it up to the window for him to see. Lawyer Anderson, after you finish, want to try my dad's cooking? Anderson raised an eyebrow and smiled. 11. I stayed in Jiangnan for almost 3 months. Life here moved slowly. During the day, I brewed tea and curled up in the attic reading and writing until sunset. In the evening, I'd take walks with my dad and listen to local ballads, falling asleep to the soft Wu dialect. Anderson visited occasionally, polite and courteous. My dad liked him and often invited him over for dinner. He rented the house next door, the balcony was just a stone's throw away. In the late stages of pregnancy, I woke up frequently at night. When I couldn't sleep, I wrapped a coat around myself and sat in the rocking chair on the balcony, lost in thought. Near year-end, red lanterns were hung everywhere along the streets. Anderson leaned over the railing and handed me a skewer of candied hawthorn. Sweet, try it. I'd grown used to his little treats. Without refusing, I bit into a piece coated with glossy sugar. Before I could even taste it, he said, "I'm leaving." My chewing paused. I looked up at him. I had to admit, Anderson was handsome. Among all the good-looking men I'd met in the industry, his face still caught my eye. Silver moonlight bathed him, cold and pure like fresh snow. Behind thin glasses, his beautiful almond eyes narrowed slightly, like they held a galaxy of tiny stars. A man like that could easily capture a girl's heart. I looked away slowly and said softly, "All right, safe travels." Anderson lowered his gaze and quietly asked, "Aren't you going to ask where I'm going?" The hearing is next week. I'm heading back to the firm to prepare." I was a little stunned. So much time had passed. And I hadn't thought about Gerald for a long time. Love and forgetting didn't seem so hard after all. My distraction made Anderson misunderstand. He thought I was worried the case might fail. To cheer me up, he somehow produced 2 tubs of fireworks. Behind the house was a small river, and across a bridge was an open field. I stood on the balcony watching Anderson light the fireworks not far away. He waved and called, "Tamia, happy early divorce. Embrace your new life." The booming sounds covered everything. Brilliant fireworks spread across the ink-black night sky. For a moment, all the dazzling colors bloomed before my eyes. Anderson walked out of the firelight and stood under the balcony, holding up his phone to show me the screen. "For you, I will never lose." I softly smiled. The candied hawthorn in my mouth was so sweet. When the fireworks ended, I finally slept well for the first time in a long while. The next morning, Anderson was gone. My dad went to the market to buy groceries, leaving the yard door open. A few neighborhood kids smelled the plum blossom scent and stopped by, unable to resist coming in. I smiled and waved them inside, pulling out some chairs so we could all sit under the tree and chat, from Doraemon to Cardcaptor Sakura, from Boonie Bears to Peppa Pig. They stared at my belly and asked, "Is it a brother or a sister inside?" I honestly said I didn't know. Suddenly, a child pointed behind me, raising his voice. "Sis, that big brother is looking at you." I followed his finger and saw a familiar figure standing at the yard gate, Gerald. He stared at me for a very long time. So long his eyes were red. Then he spoke, his voice hoarse. "Tamia, I finally found you." 12. I didn't expect Gerald to come chasing after me here. Stephanie told me he nearly went crazy trying to find me. This wasn't like him at all. Proud as he is, he would never bow down for me. But this time, something seemed different. After the kids left, only Gerald and I remained in the yard. He stopped in front of me, reaching out to touch my belly. "You're so far along now. Has the baby been bothering you?" I took a step back, avoiding his touch. His fingers froze in midair, trembling slightly, hurt by my reaction. After a moment, he said quietly, "Since you left, I've missed you." He looked straight at me, the hidden affection almost spilling out of his eyes as he gently called my name. "Tamia, it took me 3 months to finally figure something out. The one I love isn't Xavier, It's you. I didn't know what caused his change, but that sentence sounded ridiculous. I couldn't help but ask, "You love me?" Gerald said he loved me. How laughable. The man who treated me like a substitute for his first love, ignored me for 3 years after marriage, who kissed his first love passionately in the car while I was thrilled to tell him I was pregnant, who destroyed my career to protect her reputation. That's the kind of love he talks about. Disgusting. That thought made me actually vomit. Gerald didn't dodge. A pampered rich kid isn't afraid of dirt or smell. He bent down carefully, patting my back. You don't believe me, do you? I admit, at first, I married you because you looked like Xavier. I used you to make her angry, to force her to submit and make peace. But when she really came back to me, I wasn't happy at all. The days you mentioned divorce and disappeared, I couldn't sleep all night. Whenever I closed my eyes, all I saw was you. That's when I realized, my feelings for Xavier were just obsession, but for you, it's love. The evening breeze lifted the stray hairs on his forehead. His clear eyes reflected the mocking look on my face. For a moment, he looked helpless and grabbed my hand tightly. Wife, don't look at me like that. Give me a chance. Let's start over, okay? There are people in this world who always cling to what they've lost. What they never had, what is in the past, always seems the best match. Gerald is that kind of person. He doesn't really love me or Xavier. He only loves himself. Only losing something makes him remember it deeply. I sneered and said harshly, Gerald, don't be pathetic. The lawyer should have told you the court date. Remember to show up on time. Now, please get out of my house. That was the first time I spoke to him so harshly. His pupils trembled sharply, tears suddenly fell, landing hot on the back of my hand. I wiped away the wetness with disgust and turned to go back inside. When I closed the door, Gerald pressed against the doorframe, his hand caught and bruised purple. I was startled. Are you crazy? He gritted his teeth in pain, veins bulging on his forehead, cold sweat dripping, and asked carefully, what do I have to do for you to withdraw the lawsuit? Gerald asked how to cancel the divorce suit. I didn't answer. Actually, I had given him a chance once. On the day I scheduled my surgery, in that Maybach. I gave him 3 conditions to choose between Xavier and me. Unfortunately, he chose her and left me behind. Gerald seemed to remember this too. He looked frustrated and eager to make up for it. Give me 1 day. I'll prove it to you. Prove how much you love me. Too late. 13. When my dad got home, he found out Gerald had been here. The little old man who had been smiling and serving me food suddenly frowned coldly. He still has the face to come. He poured himself a glass of white liquor and scolded Gerald as he drank. My daughter, whom I raised with all my heart, hasn't enjoyed a single blessing since marrying him, only suffering. What kind of man is he? Don't let me see him again, or I'll hit him every time. My dad was emotional, standing up for me. I tried to calm him. Dad, you can scold, but remember to drink less for your heart. I know my limits, but you, my daughter, what are your plans after the divorce? I teased him, take the alimony, and travel the world with you and the kids. He laughed, but then choked a little. Holding his chest, he caught his breath for a few minutes, then said seriously. Your old dad can't be with you forever. Lately, I keep dreaming about your mom. She's upset I didn't protect you better. The Anderson lawyer who lives next door to us is a good guy. I think he's more reliable than Gerald. Probably had too much to drink. My dad rambled on, his topics going all over the place. I quickly interrupted, tidied up the dishes, and escaped back to my room like running away. Just as I lay down, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Stephanie sent me a message, check the trending news, Xavier is finished. I opened Weibo. The constant flood of messages made my brain freeze briefly. First, Gerald tagged me. He never used social media, but minutes ago, he created an account and publicly announced our relationship. Legal husband and wife, our child is mine at actress Tamia. Then, the Gerald Group's official account clarified under the tweet calling it fabricated. After a business event, Gerald saw Ms. Xavier home. She was drunk and not fully aware. Gerald quickly pushed her away, no passionate kiss. The prayer beads are just the same style. Stop spreading rumors, the CEO's wife would be unhappy. I couldn't help but sneer. Gerald's PR team sure knows how to spin things. In just a few sentences, they erased the cheating accusation. The comments exploded. Plot twists after plot twists, my brain can't handle it. Xavier's just hyping up drama, totally shameless. So Tamia's marriage certificate isn't photoshopped? I thought she was faking for attention. Am I the only one wondering why it took so long to clarify? Gerald has no responsibility. He was clearly forced to do it. Seems like Xavier still threatens Tamia's place in his heart. Everyone knows Xavier schemed to sleep with him when they broke up. She's Gerald's true love is innocent. Crazy fans, stop calling her true love. The judges are fair and just. No matter how Tamia rose up, she is now the legal wife. Your master knew they were married but still posted it. That's not clearing her name. Agree. Third parties and their fans, get out of the entertainment industry. Xavier's personal Weibo was quickly overwhelmed. Thousands of comments cursing her flooded in. Even fan control teams couldn't keep up, and she had to close comments. Online attacks weren't enough. Furious netizens started digging into her overseas acting school days. Smoking, drinking, failing classes, casual hookups. Even a former assistant publicly accused her of tax evasion. The incident escalated. Authorities intervened, the industry quietly blacklisted her. Endorsements dropped, shows and movies blurred her image overnight. At this point, Xavier's career was finished. The biggest beneficiary of this storm was me. Stephanie said within just half an hour, her inbox was flooded with business offers. Even movies about my postpartum comeback were in discussion. She cried with joy, "You finally made it through, Tamia." My nose tingled. It's been such a hard road. At that moment, I received a voice message on WeChat. It was from Anderson. I opened it. The background noise was loud, he was clearly still busy. Anderson said, "Look outside the window." I looked up. Under the vast night sky, several drones hovered. The tiny lights formed 2 lines of words. Congratulations, Tamia. Keep shining in what you love. 14. After thanking Anderson, suddenly outside the window, fireworks exploded. The sounds of firecrackers echoed one after another. I suddenly remembered, today seemed to be New Year's Eve. I was supposed to stay up with my dad. Excited, I hurried downstairs to tell him, "Old man, don't worry anymore. Your daughter's career is taking off again. I'll keep acting, earn money, and stay by your side." Just as I reached the stair landing, someone blocked my way. It was Xavier. I instinctively stepped back, alert. I looked around, searching for my dad. The living room TV was playing the Spring Festival Gala, and a newly poured glass of white liquor on the coffee table was still untouched. That meant my dad was home. But if Xavier barged in, she must have known that. If she knew, how could she not appear? A bad feeling suddenly rose inside me. "Where's my dad?" I asked. Xavier laughed softly, "He's at the door." I looked out through the floor-to-ceiling window, and my knees almost gave out. My dad was lying stiff in the snow. "It's not my fault, okay? Your dad has a bad temper. I just cursed you a few times," and he clutched his chest and collapsed. Her words seemed to echo, yet also felt distant. I recalled what my dad had said at the dinner table. He mentioned my mom, Anderson, Gerald, but never himself. Had he known his health was failing? Why didn't I notice? I even hid in my room before because I found him too naggy. Regret and guilt surged like a tidal wave, nearly drowning me. I had no time to think more and instinctively pulled out my phone to call emergency services. Seeing my panicked, distressed face, Xavier's smile grew even wider. "Tamia, you ruined my career, stole my Gerald, and made my life miserable. So, payback's fair. I'm going to make you taste the pain of losing your loved one." She did it on purpose, deliberately angering my dad until he had a heart attack. I lost all rationality instantly and slammed this crazy woman's head against the wall repeatedly, with all my strength. Xavier screamed in pain, her hair messy like a madwoman's. In the struggle, she shoved me hard. I lost grip on the railing, fell down the stairs, rolling. The impact made me completely dazed. When I came to, my white dress was soaked in blood. My abdomen ached like it was being sliced. Outside, I heard the ambulance siren, medical staff rushing in, lifting me onto a stretcher, asking how I felt. I couldn't speak. I stared fixedly at the door. Another team knelt in the snow, racing against time performing CPR on my dad. "He'll be okay. My dad will definitely be okay. He will live a long life and always be by my side." I kept repeating this in my mind to comfort myself. Until the rescuers exchanged a serious glance and shook their heads solemnly. I pushed myself up and screamed hoarsely, "Why did you stop? Save my dad. Please save him." "Sorry, your father suffered a heart attack. We did everything we could." I watched helplessly as the normally lively old man was zipped into a body bag, while I was rushed into the emergency room. The hospital's ceiling lights were so bright, stabbing my eyes until tears streamed down. I barely felt the physical pain. All I felt was my heart breaking again and again. A nurse shouted, "Mother hemorrhaging heavily, signs of premature labor, contact her family immediately." Just before losing consciousness, I thought, "Family? I have no family left." On this New Year's Eve, a time for family reunions, I lost the father who loved me most. 15. Gerald was in a meeting when the hospital called. After the public clarification on Weibo, the media buzzed, the stock market fluctuated again, and the board demanded answers. He tugged at his tie, annoyed. Thinking, these old folks are just delaying his chance to reconcile with his wife. His assistant rushed in, "Gerald, your wife is in trouble." Gerald froze. The pen in his hand dropped to the floor. He booked the nearest flight back to Jiangnan and rushed to the hospital as fast as possible, sweat beading on his forehead. The red surgical light was like an invisible hand, squeezing his throat, almost suffocating him. Time dragged on. Gerald didn't eat or drink, staying outside the operating room without leaving. 3 hours later, the door opened. The doctor stepped out, removing his mask. "Mr. Gerald, the baby is safe. But your wife's bleeding won't stop, and her will to survive is weak. She might." Gerald looked up sharply. His throat felt clogged and burning. After a long pause, he said, "Please continue." His voice trembled slightly. The doctor said, "She may not make it through the night." Tears welled in his eyes instantly. A suffocating panic wrapped around him like a dense net, trapping him. He slid down the wall and sat on the cold tile floor, pain spreading like a dull knife scraping his flesh all over. He had finally recognized his feelings. Was she really going to leave him now? No, he wouldn't allow it. Find the best specialists, use the best medicine. If you can't save her, your career ends here. The doctor dared not offend this big boss, and called the team for further plans. When the old man arrived, only Gerald remained outside the empty emergency room. He sat on the cold tiles, burying his head deep into his arms, lifeless. "Not appreciating what you have while you have it," the old man sighed, only to regret after losing it. Gerald gave a bitter smile. Yes, married 3 years, he had never truly cherished Tamia. She broke her leg filming an action scene and cried to call him. He coldly replied, "Let the assistant take you to the hospital. Don't bother me with these small things again." But when Xavier scraped her skin, he stormed onto the set in a rage to back her up. Tamia didn't know and still naively acted cute at home. "Husband, it hurts so much." Can you care about me a little? Gerald didn't even lift his eyelids. Will caring stop the pain? No, but I want to hear it. He cut her off. Sorry, can't do that. Then, to Xavier, he was warm and attentive. Tell me when you're in pain. I'll be with you. This painful contrast happened almost every day. Eventually, Tamia seemed to have had enough disappointment and stopped reaching out. He should have felt relieved, but instead felt empty inside. He often lost focus in meetings, wanted to go home to see Tamia, and even confused Xavier for her several times. At first, he thought it was withdrawal symptoms and didn't pay much attention. Until that kiss video leaked, and Tamia slapped him, calling him a jerk. His heart ached like it was being pricked by needles, sharp pain spreading. For some reason, he didn't want a divorce and wouldn't let her terminate their child. During the months Tamia disappeared, Gerald hadn't slept well once. He woke up in panic in the middle of the night. Xavier confronted him. Gerald, what kind of spell did she put on you? I'm already back with you, so why are you crazily chasing after a fake? If you keep this up, it's over between us. The woman became more agitated, almost hysterical. Gerald silently watched her, suddenly feeling fed up. How could he have treated Tamia as a substitute for Xavier? They looked somewhat alike, but their personalities were so different. Tamia was gentle and stable. Xavier was reckless and spoiled. He was done. Gerald's mother died early, and his father was too busy with work to discipline him. No one taught him what love was. No one taught him how to recognize an unhealthy relationship. But that day, he realized. He had mistaken stubbornness for true love and missed the one he should have treasured most. 16. At 4 a.m., the hospital corridor was cold and empty. The old man had already left. Gerald still sat on the floor in the same position, motionless. An aunt passing by saw him and felt sorry, so she handed him a tissue and gently said, "Young man, it's okay, don't cry." Gerald touched his face. It was wet. Only then did he realize he was crying. My daughter also had a premature birth with heavy bleeding. They even issued a critical condition notice. Sigh, I was desperate and went to Chisha temple to pray for her. Luckily, when I returned, she slowly regained consciousness. You see, people always need some hope to hold on to. So don't give up hope. Maybe she will wake up any second now. The speaker didn't mean much, but Gerald took it to heart. He leaned against the wall, slowly stood up, and thanked her. Then he walked out of the hospital in a daze. When someone feels powerless, they can only hope for a miracle in other ways. For example, faith. By that time, Chisha temple was already closed. A black Maybach was parked by the roadside. Gerald got out, staring at the solemn path leading to the Buddhist temple. It looked close, but was actually far away. Without hesitation, he knelt down, bowing in the most sincere way to pray and seek blessings. The cold wind cut through him, chilling to the bone. Light snow fell on his face, melting like tears. He stood up, took one step up, then knelt again. One bow at a time. He bowed all the way to the temple gate. The monk on duty heard the noise and greeted him with one hand raised. Devotee, if you want to pray, please come back after dawn. Gerald lowered his eyes and stayed kneeling without rising. I can't wait. Please, Master, make an exception and let me ask for a talisman of safety. The two stood firm. The monk was moved by his determination and sincerity and led him inside. A pure land, with 3 sticks of incense burning. Gerald put his palms together, silently and sincerely whispering, I ask the gods and Buddha to bless my heart with no other thoughts, only that my wife passes this difficult time. The prayer flags fluttered, seeming to respond. By dawn, he finally got the consecrated talisman of safety. Gerald carefully held it in his palm and rushed back to the hospital. Perhaps the gods really heard his plea. 2 hours later, the emergency room light went off. The doctor, relieved, told him, Mr. Gerald, congratulations. Your wife's bleeding has stopped, and she's now out of danger. Tamia was moved to a regular ward. But she was still unconscious. Gerald gently placed the talisman into her palm. Wife, don't sleep anymore. Open your eyes and look at me. Tamia's eyelashes twitched. She had been dreaming a long, long dream. In the dream, she didn't drink the champagne spiked with aphrodisiac and never met Gerald. She worked hard acting for money, pushed love aside, and whenever she had free time, took her father for checkups or traveled the world. Every birthday, she only made one wish. Wish Dad a long life. But a voice kept calling her. Wife, please, wake up. Wife. Tamia's eyelashes fluttered more. It was like surfacing from deep water, all her chains falling away. She slowly opened her eyes, saw Gerald's face, saw the hospital's white ceiling, and realized it was all a big dream. Her father didn't live a long life. 17. After waking up, I did two things. First, I pressed charges of intentional injury against Xavier. There was a security camera at my door that recorded everything clearly. The doorbell rang, my dad opened it, heard Xavier insulting me, and got into an argument with her out of anger. Shortly after, he clutched his chest and collapsed. Xavier didn't help and even laughed with no shame. After submitting the video to the police, Xavier got scared. She came to the hospital looking to settle and compensate. I grabbed a water cup from the table and threw it at her. Dream on. I was determined to make her pay for this. She was scared stiff by my furious gaze and shrank behind Gerald, crying as she clung to his sleeve. Gerald, please, for old time's sake, help me plead. I really don't want to go to jail. Gerald's eyes flickered. Even if not in love anymore, the first love that left a deep mark didn't want her to suffer too much. Before he spoke, I took out the talisman from under the pillow. Gerald, this is what you prayed for on my behalf. The night I gave birth, the story spread, the Buddhist descended from the altar, standing in the endless snow, bowing step by step to get this talisman for me. The media called it a love deeper than the sea. I looked up and asked him, do you know why I had premature heavy bleeding? Gerald shook his head. I smiled faintly and quietly told him the truth, because your Xavier pushed me down the stairs. My baby and I almost died on the operating table. And now you still want me to let her go? Xavier's face turned visibly terrified as she tried to defend herself in vain. Gerald, it's not. She was pushed to the ground with force. Gerald shook off her hand, disgust clear on his face, straightened his sleeve, called the police, and had her taken to jail. More than 10 years of sentence. I think she will receive plenty of attention inside. Second, I handled my dad's funeral. The little old man who was once strong was now a small box. On the burial day, Anderson came to pay respects. He heard I was unconscious and hospitalized. He wanted to visit me in the maternity ward but was stopped by Gerald's security. Now, wearing a black coat, he bowed and placed a bunch of white chrysanthemums before the portrait. We silently looked at each other for a few seconds. He spoke in a heavy tone, my condolences. Those two words stirred all my emotions easily. I remembered those months in Jiangnan. My dad would buy groceries early and always ask what I wanted to eat. Passing by next door, he would greet Anderson, asking if he had any dietary restrictions. Between Anderson and me, there were so many memories about my dad. The tears I held back for days finally poured out. Like broken pearls falling. I never thought I'd cry so hysterically one day. Anderson sat quietly beside me, listening, his hand on my shoulder, trying to pat my back to comfort me. Suddenly, another hand pulled me into an embrace. Gerald held my waist tightly, his gaze full of hostility toward Anderson. Don't touch my wife. A warning tone. Anderson raised an eyebrow, correcting him, Mr. Gerald, we both know Miss Tamia is already going through a divorce. Implying, don't call her wife anymore. So what? Gerald's hand around my waist tightened, until the judgment is final, she's still my wife. He held me and strode out of the memorial hall. I struggled, but he pressed me closer. You're still in confinement, don't cry, okay? In the quiet corner, his fingers gently wiped my tears at the corner of my eye. "Be careful not to hurt your eyes." I pushed his hand away, my throat hoarse. "Tamia's lawyer is right. Don't call me that again. And please, leave now. My dad and I don't want to see you." The old man said, "Don't let him see Gerald again. Every time he does, he hits him. Probably he really hates him." Gerald's hand dropped to his side, fingers clenched white. In his eyes, panic and helplessness clearly spread. "Tamia, don't." I didn't listen further and turned back to kneel in front of the portrait. Let him say whatever he wants. It's none of my business anymore. 18. 7 days after my dad passed, the divorce hearing took place. In the courthouse waiting room, Anderson sat down holding a stack of documents. His dark circles showed he had prepared thoroughly. He was determined. "Tamia, we will never lose." I believed him. Perhaps even Dad above was watching over me, because the case went smoothly. When the judge granted the divorce, I was stunned for a long moment. 3 years of marriage, finally over. From now on, my life could set sail again. Anderson gently embraced me. "Tamia, you're free now." I smiled. It was the first genuine smile I'd shown in all those dark days. After leaving the courthouse, I went to the cemetery to burn incense for Dad. A familiar figure quietly followed behind. Since receiving the divorce decree, Gerald's eyes had lost their light, like a stray dog abandoned by its owner, utterly humble. I didn't want to deal with him. I crouched down and touched Dad's black and white photo. Half-heartedly, I told him about my recent life. "Dad, I won the divorce. I got full custody of the child." "You'd say I really hit the jackpot. Gerald's family failed to get custody and will pay $100 million annually in child support. Oh, and next month I'm filming a new project. My career and life are both going well, so rest easy." As I spoke, my vision blurred. I realized I was crying again. There's a saying, losing loved ones leaves a lifetime of dampness. Snow in early spring slowly melted. The long-missed sunlight warmed my body. I stood and turned to leave. Out of the corner of my eye, a few meters away, Gerald knelt heavily by Dad's tombstone. He was making up for not being able to pay respects at the funeral. His skin scraped against the hard stone path, blood trickling down his temple. As I passed him, he suddenly grabbed my wrist, voice trembling. "Don't get divorced. The child needs a father." It sounded like meaningless nonsense. The decree was already issued. We both knew it was over, no turning back. I slowly pulled my hand from his grasp. "No need. I can raise the child on my own." Gerald stood there stunned, watching me leave. I had no regrets. I walked away. 3 months later. My first movie after childbirth wrapped filming. During the promotional tour, a fan Q&A session was held. These fans had stuck with me through the toughest years, they knew my story inside and out. Among the crowd, a young girl held up a microphone and asked, "Tamia, it's been a hard journey. Besides the insightful director, is there anyone else you want to thank?" I thought carefully before answering. There are actually 2 people. The first is my father. The second is my divorce lawyer. Without Dad, there wouldn't be a Tamia who could focus solely on her dreams. Without Anderson, there wouldn't be a Tamia who broke free and was reborn. The young girl nodded gently. "We're happy for you." The fan club even stayed up all night preparing a gift. "Tamia, we wish you a happy divorce." Just then, the big screen behind me started playing a video. It was a compilation of all the roles I'd played since debuting. I watched with tears welling up. But I didn't expect the fans saved the last scene for my dad. In the footage, he sat in the audience, waving a light stick proudly and shouting, "Hee hee, see that? That's my daughter, the best actress." In just a few months, everything changed. I turned away to wipe my tears. Out of the corner of my eye, in the last row, in an unnoticed corner, Anderson quietly held a small placard, watching me. Next to him was an empty seat. I knew it was reserved for my dad. Dad came to see me too. I bowed deeply to the audience. In my heart, I said, "Thank you all, my supporters. May I finally escape the hardships." Towards the spring mountains.